Now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Russian Federation.
Mr. President, I'd like to say right off the bat that Russia does not recognize the so-called impartial and independent mechanism to investigate international crimes in Syria. This body that was created through an illegitimate decision will never be able to prove its legitimacy, and the same goes for its creative output. However, we nevertheless felt it appropriate to say a few words about the so-called IIIM report. So, what do we have here then? The General Assembly has been forced to waste time and resources discussing another paper that we would struggle to call a report. We know, after all, that a report needs to contain substantive information. This document is completely devoid of that. Under cover of confidentiality, the General Assembly has been presented with yet another pro forma response. What confidentiality can there really be when, as the report tells us, the mechanism has already begun actively disseminating its analytical products and evidentiary modules? Meanwhile, the General Assembly, to which the mechanism reports, can only guess at the results of its creative endeavours. As you know, this illegitimate entity was moved under the UN's regular budget, in breach of the long-standing practice of consensus in the Fifth Committee of the General Assembly. For that reason, Russia, as a state that has paid its contribution to the UN budget in full, would like to know what the UN's resources have been spent on. The organization's staff work in the mechanism, staff who work under the Secretary-General. Some 50 regular budget posts have already been filled. Where is the transparency and accountability that is characteristic of UN organs? A question now for the mechanism's leadership. Are you hiding something from the members of the General Assembly, or is there something that you are ashamed to admit? This document doesn't even contain information about the cases it is working on. For some unknown reason, this entity does not feel it necessary to specify what unlawful acts, suspects, and national jurisdictions it is referring to. We are told only that there are petabytes of information that has been collected and that the amount of information is growing without end, thanks to cooperation with some wide range of actors. Soon the computers are going to crash. At the same time, we are told nothing about the sources of this so-called evidence, the procedure used to collect and process it, and who exactly the mechanism is cooperating with. We're told that in 2020, the mechanism supposedly conducted 130 collections. Why has the General Assembly not been informed of the states on whose territories these missions are operating? If this is a reference to the territory of the Syrian Arab Republic, then on what grounds are those missions there, and what status do they have? Mr. President, the Russian Federation still envisages no possibility of cooperating with the mechanism, and is of the view that no evidence collected by this illegitimate entity could ever be used for the purposes of any national or international criminal proceedings. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the distinguished representative of the Russian Federation.